Okay, today I'll be analyzing Nike's culture through an organizational behavioral lens. Specifically, I'll be focusing on the relationship between Nike's athlete-focused culture and employee identity and how that can affect motivation and organizational purposes. Even though Nike's culture is like one of its biggest benefits or biggest, I would say, upsides, not every employee may naturally connect to that identity, and that's the main issue that I'm going to be discussing today. And so, yeah, so one of the main reasons that Nike has been so successful is because of its strong culture. The company has been built around competition, performance, and kind of like the whole athlete mindset. And that identity shapes how brands itself and how important and how employees are expected to think and perform internally. The issue is not that every employee personally identifies with the culture in the same way. Nike employs like marketers, designers, analysts, technology workers, and like other employees who like are not directly connected to athletics. And from an organizational perspective, that can create what I would describe as like a culture identity gap. Basically, there can be like a disconnect between the organization's identity and like how employees see themselves personally. And so that matters because like culture influences motivation, engagement, like, commitment, things like that. Like employees who feel connected to the organization are usually more engaged and willing to put in extra work over time. Like they still may complete their responsibilities, but they may not feel as emotionally invested in the company or the company's goals due to the fact that they don't directly align with theirs. Um, we even mentioned it in class, like self-esteem is really huge as far as when you're in a workspace or a work environment. It's like if you don't have the right self-esteem, that's very important as far as, you doing your day-to-day tasks and duties. So why this actually matters to performance is a little bit of a piggybacking off of last ones. Like this issue directly affects organizational performance because motivation is one of the biggest drivers of employee behavior, right? Like I said before, like when somebody connects strongly to a company's culture, they're more likely to contribute ideas, collaborate with others, and like go beyond bare minimum expectations. They feel like they really belong within the organization. When you feel like you belong, that's when you want to take the extra mile to go above and beyond. And so, over time, that can kind of lead to lower overall performance across the organization. It can reduce things like, creativity, energy, because employees like may feel they stop feeling excited to work. And even me personally, I have a cousin who actually works at Nike. She's into computer science, and she actually has expressed to me that she doesn't really have an issue with the identity because like she's not really she used to run track, but it's not she doesn't really identify herself primarily as an athlete anymore. But she said that Nike has Nike has a role for everybody. Not everybody is destined to be an athlete, and they have a really good company culture within that. So, yeah, it's like, but a lot of times though, it's like if your personal goals don't align at all with your company's goals, it can a lot of times lead to lower performance, less creativity, and a higher chance of you burning out or quitting. So that's why a lot of times it's really good to find jobs that you're passionate about because it's like when you have a job that you're passionate about, you can go above and beyond an extra mile. It's not just a remedial daunting task to you. It's something that you actually wake up excited, striving to do, wanting to do. And so, this next slide is basically just what the research shows. When I was researching Nike's culture, I went on through a plethora of different sites from even just from Reddit, Quora, asking my cousin, just as far as, the culture at Nike. And one thing that I noticed immediately was how often the company emphasizes performance, competition, things like innovation, just really just serving athletes. That's their main goal is to serve athletes. And the athlete mindset clearly shapes how company culture and influences like it basically shows how it influences expectations for employees inside the organization. Like I also looked outside of business articles and workplace discussions about Nike's environment. A common theme was like the company is viewed as very demanding and fast paced, kind of like a lot of Fortune 500 companies, right? They have a lot of suppliers, a lot of buyers. It's a pretty big, I don't know what the best term is, but ecosystem. I'm sure there could be a better business term than ecosystem, but yeah, some employees describe the culture as intense depending on the role and workload. That doesn't necessarily mean the culture is bad because many successful companies have high expectations. However, it does show that the pressure can become part of the workplace environment. And from the organizational behavior side, research consistently shows that employees perform better when they feel connected to organizations, cultures, and values, which has been a common theme throughout this. And so, yeah, research on culture fit also shows that employees who like are getting along with people as well are also tend to and also are with people that they can connect to and connect to the working material. A lot of times, those are just situations where they can strive the most. And so to analyze the issue more deeply, I use the Mars model from organizational behavior. And so the first part is motivation, and motivation affects how much effort employees are willing to put into their work. If employees don't connect to the culture, motivation can naturally decrease because they don't feel personally invested in the organization. Like just due to the fact that they don't feel like invested into the organization, a lot of times that could like lead to them quitting. It could lead to them not talking well about the organization, which a lot of times people don't want. It's like what makes companies stronger is not having a higher turnover rate. We learn that all throughout the semester because when people don't have higher turnover rates, that means that they're more skilled, they have more years on the job, and they're just more developed as far as their role and what they're doing. So it's like these companies is like Nike want to make sure they have as low turnover rate as possible. And so the second is ability. In Nike's case, I don't really think ability is a problem due to the fact that it's like a top global company and like they hire talented and capable employees already. So that's not really the issue. The third part is role perception. This refers to how employees understand their role within an organization. Like some employees like may not fully understand how they fit into Nike's athlete focused identity. Obviously, it all depends on their role. It's like this is very interpersonal, especially if their role is like more business or technology related instead of athletic, kind of like my cousin. And finally, situational factors that like refer to the work environment itself. Like Nike's culture creates strong pressure to perform and compete at a high level. Sometimes for some employees, that environment may increase motivation. For others, it may feel a sense of, stress or pressure, anxiety, which can like linger or even build up over time. So like overall, the Mars model suggests that the biggest issues are motivation, role, perception, those three rather than ability, just due to the fact that employees are generally capable. But, obviously there's certain issues, right? There's so many different like cogs and just like there's so many different working pieces as far as when it comes to Nike. It's like just because the manufacturing is experiencing an issue that doesn't mean the marketing team isn't experiencing an issue. It's like all of the issues, like it can be ability in like a certain sense, but that's not generally what it is. Like it can be an ability at any given time. If certain employees are incapable or aren't doing the right tasks, then Nike would have to move accordingly. Like you've seen some companies like Facebook, for example, like they just fired 6,000 people due to the fact that AI was able to do their jobs. So it's like if employees become uncapable, then Nike will move accordingly. And so what Nike could do is one possible approach that they could do is just keep things the exact way that it is. The advantage is that the company keeps its strong performance mindset and competitive identity. However, the approach also means that the disconnect issue may continue for employees who don't like personally relate to the athlete mindset. And another possible approach would be making the culture like less intense. That could help some employees like feel more comfortable and included, but it could also weaken the competitive edge that helped Nike become successful. And so the strongest solution, in my opinion, is really just redefining what the word athlete means internally within the company. Instead of connecting the identity to sports performance, Nike could define the athlete mindset around qualities like, creativity, discipline, teamwork, innovation, commitment, things like that, that would allow employees across different departments to feel connected to the culture while still maintaining Nike's high performance expectations and competitive identity. And so, a final takeaway, um, it's like to conclude, Nike's culture is like one of the company's greatest strengths and a major reason for its success. At the same time, like the organizational behavior research shows that culture fit strongly affects employee motivation, engagement, and long-term performance. And because of that, I feel like Nike's long-term approach is not changing its culture completely, but broadening how employees connect to it internally, right? Like that would help maintain its competitive identity while also improving employee connection and engagement across the organization. This is very interpersonal, me personally, right? If I worked at Nike, which I don't, I'm an athlete, soon going to be a retired athlete. I don't know how I feel like I'll always be an athlete, but it's like I'm not on like an organized team. But even within that, I feel like if I wasn't directly an athlete, I still would feel a call to duty just as far as making sure that I do my job to the best of my ability. I think that even if we can't relate to what it is that we're doing, I still think that we can show up and be inspired. And if we're not inspired, look for other people to inspire us. And yeah, here is my works cited. And I appreciate you guys for listening to my presentation.